you. I hope that you'll find the session beneficial. We have just finished the month of June. I hope the month has gone well for you and you are able to reach your goals. As always, we start a new month. And I want to start by wishing you all the best in the month of July. As you might have seen in your invitation, today we are once again tackling questions that came from you. And as always, the questions are quite interesting. So I just want to apologize because we were not able to get some of the questions that came from last week's session. So as I said before, you can send your questions by WhatsApp to my number, or just be patient. In the course of things, we are going to reach all the questions that we receive. Thank you very much, and let us get started. The first question that I wanted to touch on was a very interesting one that someone wanted a clarification between some of the terms that we use quite often. But I think because of this age of information, that some of these words we use a lot, almost like a habit, and after a while, we might not be quite clear what we are talking about. So the person wanted a clarification between the difference between diet, nutrition, and metabolism. Of course, these are words we use very often, especially as Neolife distributors. We are always quite concerned about these matters to do with our lifestyle choices. So the way I wanted to describe it is this way. When we speak about diet, we are speaking about what gets from your plate to your mouth. That is, you have brought food onto your plates and now you're going to eat it. So that is what comprises your diet, what gets from your plates to your mouth. When we are thinking about diet, we also take into consideration food science. That is, how the food which we are eating has been grown or produced and what has been done to it between the farm or factory and our plates. Because in the days that we live in, a lot can happen to a food item between the producer and the consumer. So when we're speaking about diet, we have to take that aspect into account. Then the next term was nutrients or nutrition. So when we are thinking about nutrients, we are thinking about what comes from our mouth and reaches our cells. So that is what goes on during the process in which our digestive system is digesting the food that we have eaten in order to make it more available to our cells. So the nutrients are what result from the digestive process and what is absorbed by our cells. So then the third one is metabolism. Again, this one has gained a lot of attention of late, especially because of the lifestyle illnesses that are linked to defects in the metabolism. So metabolism deals with what happens to food that we have eaten and digested and obtain nutrients from within our cells. So metabolism happens within the cell. How each cell is able to absorb nutrients and either use those nutrients for fuel or use them as raw material for building new tissues or repairing worn out tissues. So those are the three terms that the question was about: diet, which is what comes from our plate into our mouth; nutrition, which is how we process the diet that we eat and make it available to the cells; and metabolism, how each cell absorbs nutrients, converts it into either fuel or raw materials for building and repairing our tissues. So I think that is a very useful question for us, because sometimes we are not quite clear what the meaning, what the differences are, and more especially because many of us have to translate these terminologies into a second or even a third language. So if you have a clear understanding, then expressing it in another language is going to be much easier. So I want to thank the person who sent the question. And then I had some questions from last week's session about brain support. The one I have here is ADHD, that is attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. This is a condition in which a person, usually it is a diagnosis that is given to children in the pre-teen or teen years, and it is the inability to sustain attention or to remain still. So one thing I wanted to mention about this ADHD is that sometimes it is linked to anxiety. In young children, often they do not have the words or the understanding to express the fact that they are anxious. And so they exhibit certain kinds of behavior as a way of expressing their anxiety. And this can usually manifest itself as an inability to sustain attention or to remain still. They become restless. Sometimes also it can be the opposite, that they become very tired and apathetic. So when we have this diagnosis, one of the important things is to eliminate junk food and food which contains additives, that is processed foods. And that is because this can exacerbate the problem. Then from the Neolife side, we would recommend omega-3 salmon oil, we recommend Treonine, multimineral, and Neolife shake in order to help with helping the child to reduce some of the inflammation that is often there, in terms, especially if they're eating inappropriate food, because when they have this ADHD, sometimes they may be craving things like soda and junk food. And this leads to certain problems in the physiology. And omega-3 salmon oil plus Treonine is going to be helpful there. Also the mineral supplements. A Neolife shake gives them a good high quality protein, which can help them in supporting their nutrient deficiencies. So that is attention deficit disorder. It's an unfortunate thing that it has become a very common diagnosis for children. And I think we should try our best to expose our circle of influence to the fact that by giving good nutrition, we can actually support children so that they do not have to go into the long-term medication that is associated with this. In addition to that, we can also educate parents on the importance of a healthy diet for the mental health of their children, because some of the junk food, like when we think about some of the breakfast foods like the cornflakes and all this, they tend to be very high in sugar and all kinds of additives, and they only worsen the problem. So it's better to simplify food and get the children in the habit of eating food which is minimally processed, because then we know what is going into their system. Then the next question was about migraines. So migraines are severe recurrent headaches that sometimes people suffer from. And in quite a number of cases, it can be linked to certain items of food. So some people may find that wine can act as a trigger for migraines, cheese, and also certain food additives again can also act as triggers for migraines. And of course, this is a very severe headache, which can actually make it impossible for a person to function normally or even to get up and move around. So with that, we would recommend from Neolife vitamin B complex. We would also recommend omega-3 salmon oil and vitamin A plus D. If you have Herbal Rest and Relax in your market, this can also be helpful. And also vitamin A plus D is very important because it helps in the absorption of calcium, adequate absorption of calcium and magnesium. And often we may find that if we are not absorbing calcium and magnesium well, one of the results would be, if you have a tendency towards migraines, then it would increase the frequency of the migraine. So vitamin A plus D, so that you are better able to absorb the mineral supplements if you are, or minerals from your diet. Then the next question, still from last week's session, was bipolar mood disorder. This was what was formerly referred to as, what did this used to be called? it used to be called manic depression. So these days it is referred to as bipolar mood disorder, but it used to be referred to as manic depressive disorder. So it refers to a condition in which a person suffers from extreme mood swings, either from very happy to extremely depressed. So bipolar mood swings can be triggered by stress, also by sleep deprivation, substance abuse, or sometimes also as seasons change. So this again is another one of those disorders where we may find that our lifestyle choices can either improve or reduce the quality of life. So by taking care to resolve stress, by also ensuring that there is adequate sleep and rest, and avoiding stimulants and substances that might be abused, then it can be possible to manage this disorder and live with and function more normally. Then in addition to that, from Neolife products, we'll have supplements that will help. We'll recommend multimineral alfalfa, 3NN, omega-3 salmon oil, and again, vitamin B complex. You can see a common thread here in vitamin B complex, omega-3 salmon oil, and 3NN, because these oils play an important role in, this oil together with vitamin B complex play an important role in mental health. Okay, then still another one from last week, depression. This is a prolonged generalized anxiety or fearfulness that leads to a depressed mindset and inability to cope with ordinary life's challenges. So a person feels sad and unable to cope. And this, of course, is not just the way sometimes you might just feel a bit sad or off, but it actually can be as bad as a clinical depression. So it has been linked to, in young people, to excessive use, prolonged excessive use of social media, then also excessive use of alcohol and drugs can stimulate and then later on lead to depression and anxiety. For that reason, one of the important things to do is to avoid excessive use of these types of things, because they can worsen something which could otherwise be managed. So then from Neolife, we'll recommend multimineral or the magnesium complex, because magnesium plays an important role in improving moods and positive mental states. Then we also would recommend vitamin B complex and Pro-Vitality. So magnesium is often found to be deficient in people suffering from depression. So I think it's a very good thing that Neolife has added magnesium complex as a standalone supplement that we can use for some of these conditions where it is it's especially needed. So those are what we would recommend, multimineral or magnesium, because as you know, multimineral will contain a whole supplements. And the reason often that we would prefer multimineral is because some of the minerals support each other in being better absorbed and in their function in the body. So there is benefit in actually using multimineral. But in this case, of course, magnesium plays a very important role together with vitamin B complex and Pro-Vitality. And the next question, well, I think the last of the two from last week, is Alzheimer's disease, which is one of the types of loss or reduction of mental functions. So Alzheimer's disease refers to a condition in which there is damage to the nerve cells, and this leads to loss of memory and other mental functions. It tends to appear as we grow older, but unfortunately, in recent times, there has been early onset Alzheimer's disease, which can start as early as 40 years old. And research is also showing strong links between Alzheimer's disease and diabetes or other problems to do with sugar metabolism. So this is a strong link, and this is one more reason why we should try our best to resolve diabetes and to educate those within our circle of influence about diabetes, great importance of resolving it because of the damage that it causes in the course of the disease. As you know, it doesn't just make you sick, it also starts destroying many aspects of our functions, of which now, as you can see, Alzheimer's is being closely linked to people who are suffering from diabetes or even pre-diabetes. So one of them, the important things is to resolve, to have the doctor check how the sugar metabolism is and whether there is pre-diabetes or diabetes. And also it can give you a hint if there is someone in your family, extended family, who has got diabetes, then already it's a warning sign that you should take the lifestyle choices that help us to mitigate against diabetes. Then from Neolife, for Alzheimer's, we are going to recommend Mind Enhancement Formula. We'll recommend coenzyme Q10, omega-3 salmon oil, flavonoid complex, and either multimineral or magnesium complex. So these are some that would help. As you know, that once this illness has shown itself, it is very difficult to reverse it. And therefore, this is a case where prevention is much better than cure. And that is why I mentioned that if you've got a history of diabetes or even Alzheimer's in your family circle, then it is an important thing to be preemptive and start taking care to take the supplements that support mental function, and also to avoid those foods that contribute to the destruction of our metabolism. As you know, this is usually the foods which are heavy in processed carbohydrates and sugar. Then the last one here from last week is Parkinson's disease, yet another nerve degeneration disease. So it's where nerve cells are destroyed. And as we saw with Alzheimer's, it destroys mental function. Parkinson tends to destroy movement. So the person starts being unable to move quickly, and there will also be stiffness of the body and muscle tremors. One of the ways in which Parkinson starts to manifest itself is constipation. So here again, we would recommend, first of all, that we take warning if there is a tendency for an older person. Again, it's an illness that can manifest itself from the middle years and older, but it can appear as early as the 40s. So here again, let us look at some of the supplements we would recommend. We'd recommend Beta-Guard, we'd recommend omega-3 salmon oil, coenzyme Q10, multimineral, and vitamin D if the person is housebound. Because with some of these conditions, the person might, as the illness progresses, they might not be able to go outside. Again, here is a case where prevention is better than cure. So if there is a family history of Parkinson's disease, then it's better to be preemptive and start taking care to use the supplements and avoid any mitigating factors that can drive the disease. Because of course, once the Parkinson's has started, the reversing it is extremely difficult. Then other questions that I received, one was about polycystic ovarian syndrome combined with low blood pressure. And this is PCOS, as it is called by its initials, refers to cysts which appear on the ovaries. And this is another illness that is linked to poor sugar metabolism, where our bodies are struggling to metabolize refined carbohydrates. And we start noticing certain symptoms of which we may have diabetes or pre-diabetes. So PCOS is linked to diabetes. And once it appears, it also starts interfering with the hormonal balance of this is an illness of women, of course, and it can lead to hormonal imbalance, which will also start driving reduced fertility. So it is another one of the reasons, one more reason, we have so many reasons, to resolve diabetes or pre-diabetes if we have a predisposition or we have the illness itself. So in Neolife, from the Neolife products, we are going to recommend botanical balance specifically to help with the pre-diabetes or diabetes, together with tree and N. And then we'll also recommend herbal feminine complex to help with balancing out the hormones in case the illness has brought them out of balance. And then we also recommend cruciferous plus that helps the body to deal with unwanted growths, and multimineral alfalfa, because sometimes PCOS leads to heavy bleeding, and a person suffering from it may find themselves losing a lot of minerals through blood. And so multimineral alfalfa will help there. Then another question was about chronic athlete's feet. Athlete's feet, as you might know, is a fungal infection that tends to attack the gaps between the toes. It causes itching and can be recurrent. And initially, it was thought that it was because of exposure to fungi in public bathrooms, but lately it turns out that actually it is because a person either has got a low immunity, because our bodies are supposed to be able to fight off some of these opportunistic microbes that we come across. So of course, we should take care in public bathroom and spaces. But in addition to that, chronic athlete's feet, that is, if you keep on getting rid of it and then it comes back, it can be an early warning of pre-diabetes and diabetes. So again, this is something that has got an underlying, often has an underlying reason. So to check for that, to check the sugars, and then also if it is linked to low immunity, it could also be because the gut microbiome has been disseminated, maybe by use of antibiotics or by eating inappropriate foods like junk food, which tend to decimate the friendly microbes. The friendly microbes in our gut are there to help us fight the unfriendly ones, like the ones that cause athlete's feet. So from Neolife, in this case of chronic athlete's feet, we'll recommend care solution for washing the feet and the socks. And then after the feet have been washed, they should be sun-dried thoroughly so that they are completely dry. Because if the feet are moist and in enclosed shoes, it tends to support the multiplication of the fungus that causes the disease. So to avoid that, make sure that the feet are completely dry. And then we also recommend the use of garlic allium, which helps to fight these microbes. Vitamin D also assists. And if you have it in your market, acidophilus plus to repopulate the gut microbes that might be in a lowered immunity, which is making us unable to fight off some of these opportunistic diseases. Then another question was about low potassium, someone suffering from low potassium, the metallic mineral that is very important in our body. This is one of the 4 very important metal supplements that we have. This is potassium, calcium, iron, and magnesium, all of them very important for our system. The first thing I would recommend for low potassium is to have a doctor check for an underlying cause, because normally our body should be able to access such supplements from our diet and our supplements. If it is continuously low, there may be a reason. Sometimes if someone has had a bout of diarrhea and vomiting, maybe as a result of some food, ingesting some food that did not agree with you, then you may temporarily have a reduction in potassium, but it should not be an ongoing chronic thing. So if it is, then it's important to see a doctor so that you find out if there's an underlying cause. And then from Neolife, we'll recommend multimineral, which contains potassium and other mineral supplements. We will also recommend Neolife Shake, and we'll also recommend magnesium. And the reason we recommend magnesium is that magnesium helps in the absorption of potassium. In fact, one of the causes that are associated with low potassium is low magnesium. So as I said before, these minerals often help to improve each other's absorption. So certain nutrients will make it possible for us to absorb the nutrients more effectively. Let us see. So therefore, low potassium, to see the doctor to check if there is an underlying cause, and then to use multimineral alfalfa, Neolife Shake, and magnesium. Then another question was about someone who has had their gallbladder removed and is now having certain issues. And just to start by saying, we do not have any unnecessary organs in our body. So before we opt for the removal of an organ, it is important to be thoroughly investigated. Of course, I'm assuming that the reason why the gallbladder was removed is because it was causing serious problems to the person. And in any case, now that it's already gone, some people do not suffer from any very serious adverse effect, but for some, it can actually be quite problematic, especially if the diet is not well managed for dealing with the absence of a gallbladder. As you might know, the gallbladder is very important for the digestion of fats, and we cannot eliminate fat in our diet because fats are needed for very many important processes in our bodies, such as the making of hormones, the making of our brains, the cover of our nerves, our cell walls. All these have got fat as part of their makeup. So we cannot eliminate fat even if we do not have a gallbladder, because it's an important nutrient for our well-being. So the first recommendation would be to consult in order to take in a diet that is recommended for someone who does not have a gallbladder. And then from Neolife, we would recommend Neolife Shake, which will assist in providing a high quality protein, as well as some of the enzymes that help in digestion. We would also recommend vitamin A plus D. And then vitamin A plus D is going to help in the absorption of that are important for us. And then we also recommend omega-3 salmon oil, because this is one of the high quality fats that play very many important roles in our systems. So it needs to be added to the supplements, even though it is a fat and the person might be struggling with fat in the diet. What we can do is to improve the quality of fat. If you can only take a little fat, choose the good quality ones that are going to be very important for health, and avoid those other junk types of fat like the factory fats, which simply drive disease. Rather opt for the good quality ones that you'll get in things like avocados and omega-3 salmon oil and the fatty fish, because these are going to be useful to your health, as opposed to some of the other ones that actually do more harm than good. Then if you have it in your market, we'd also recommend Acidophilus Plus for the person who has had their gallbladder removed. And an added point here is that one of the fruits that help with providing digestive enzymes is pineapples. So pineapples can be an important addition to the diet of someone who is living without a gallbladder. So I see that we have reached the half hour. So let me thank you very much for the time that we have spent together. I hope the session has been of great use to you, and that as you start the month of July, you'll be able to go out there. As usual, our part as distributors is to educate and to share our products, to share what we know, and to support our family, our distributors, and the people we come across. We will continue with, I think, some more of the questions during next week's training, because I know that there are some other questions that we did not touch on. So I want to thank you very much and to encourage you to keep on keeping on. Do send a question if your question was not answered today. Do not be discouraged. Keep on sending them. We'll get to them at some point. I now want to hand you over to Pascal, who is ready to take you through the next session.